welcome to
Grab Life by the Horns.
Welcome to our today's Grab Life by the Horns episode. Today we have an amazing guest. Welcome, Nick Jost. It's great to have you here. And I want to introduce you a little bit to our audience. You are a strategic executive and you are an amazing field, as I think, in my opinion at least, in aerospace and defense professional. And you worked already internationally, like all over the world in this industry. And obviously you have a strong operational experience with that, and your expertise goes really deep in this area. And this is how you consult today as well in this industry, in this aerospace and defense and maritime industry. You consult these companies and institutions, I guess, with their needs. So I'm very curious about this because this is, even in my LinkedIn network, very unique, and I would learn, and I'm sure our audience as well want to learn more about this. So can you please explain a little bit what you are doing and how it came to this, and a little bit about your background?
Thank you for the nice introduction, Jennifer. Glad to be here today and tell you a little bit about myself. Well, the question is, where shall we start? You've put out so many compliments and stages of my previous experience. I feel rather humbled. Well, I have a background in the military. I was a military fighter pilot in the United States. I started out in the Navy, and I then switched to the Air Force, and I spent 20 years flying jets. 10 years active duty, 10 years in the reserves. And once I got out, I was looking for something different, something meaningful to continue. Of course, the normal path for an aviator is to continue to fly with airlines. I tried that too, twice in the beginning of my career. And once I got out, and I failed 2 times because once I was laid off due to 9/11, and on the other occasion, the airline simply went bankrupt. That kind of meant a big change for me in the sense of I was looking for something to kind of, how should I put it, get my edges away of me being a soldier and being in the military for so long. And I got a postgraduate degree in Vienna in international relations. With that, I was thinking about going into the diplomatic field, which also didn't work out the way I wanted to. So during my studies, I had an opportunity to consult people, and through that consulting, aviation topics based, of course, it sort of became a snowball effect. And I thought to myself, hey, why don't I do this for a living? And that's what I did eventually. So I kind of by accident went into that, giving advice to people, asking about stuff from aviation related, anything, and I thought I know a lot about this stuff, and this is my hobby as well. Why don't I kind of do something with that? And I started playing with it. And in the end, I built up a reputation, and I was handled from one happy customer to the other happy customer. That's why until this day, I don't have a website, basically, and I don't do too much advertising. I usually end up being asked or, being found by people who value that kind of experience. And then discussion starts. People ask me about companies, either individual people, either companies, sometimes even agencies, government agencies come to me and ask for like a second opinion on a specific topic, and then I tell them, okay, give me more information. And then I start my research, and eventually I come up with an answer, and that's how I basically operate. And that's how it pretty much went okay until Corona hit us a couple of years ago. And during the pandemic, a couple of things changed for a lot of people. In my case, I was well, not completely getting rid of customers, but the usual business drive that is behind it kind of had a low, and I was looking for alternatives, and ended up in a different company, got a regular job, got hired, and had a 9-to-5 job. working in logistics and rail cargo business. I also briefly worked in the oil and gas sector, and now I'm doing something completely different, working in adult education in Vienna. But that's just the day job, and then it's projects and my self-employment and my customers and that kind of stuff that still continues. Hopefully, to one day to the pre-pandemic levels, to just do that basically.
That sounds super, super exciting. And how long did you spend the time in the military?
I spent 20 years total time. Kind of those years were active duty, and another 10 years as a reservist. I was stationed when I was in the Navy. I was stationed on aircraft carriers. I spent a year in Japan. When I was in the Air Force, I was in South Korea for a year. I've seen some action in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Yeah, been stationed in Italy, in Germany, in the United States, of course, many places, and yeah, seen a lot of stuff.
I can imagine that is like this. And thank you as well to show yourself so vulnerable and tell us a little bit about what was not happening the way you want to have it. And I'm sure in the military you have as well a specific training for the mindset as well when it comes to failures or mistakes. Like, how did you deal with that? And what did you learn? What you can use today for your business and for your life as well? And what would you advise your children as well in this, or what you are advising your children in this way when it comes to having failures in life?
Well, first thing, nobody is perfect. As a fighter pilot, you kind of have the image, or you live in a kind of world that nothing can touch you, and you're immortal and almost like on a god level. And there's jokes about that as well. If you a good joke is, what's the difference between God and a fighter pilot? Well, God doesn't think he's a fighter pilot. So you have a big ego, of course, but that's also important because it helps you staying alive. You have to be on top of your game at all time, especially when you're flying, but also when you're not flying. And one of the biggest things that you learn or come across as a pilot is to learn from your mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. The approach to what happens after the mistake is different. For an aviator, it's usually you learn from a mistake, you take the lessons learned, you analyze it, and you plan for the future to not make the same mistake again. And you share that information. You don't keep that to yourself, but you share it with your peers, with your colleagues. Sometimes accidents, in the civil aviation world, for example, an accident is being investigated, it's being looked into, and stuff is being done to be, prevented in the future from ever happening again. That's how that business works. What kind of advice do I give my kids? Well, stay good in school. Listen to what your parents tell you or older folks tell you, because they have went through that. It's not always easy, especially to your own kids. They're always like, yeah, mom and dad knows better. Well, we know better because we have been through that before. That's the thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So to wrap it up, you learn from your mistakes, and the important thing is to not to forget them or to kind of blind them out, but take something useful out of it for the future.
And we talked as well when we had the first call. We talked as well about the society and how it changed, and I think it changed a lot, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. And what do you think, like talking about as well when it comes to the mistakes and how we handle the things, or when things are not going the right thing? Like, in your experience in the last years, what is the difference in the society and how maybe young entrepreneurs and young professionals deal with it, like 5 to 10 years ago and today? And what you wish for the society and the young professionals now as well, how they behave and basically react in this business world?
That's a good question. I think what changed most is how we do business nowadays. Before the pandemic, we usually had meetings and in person to talk about details, projects, whatever. And nowadays, or it even started during the pandemic with all the video call platforms that we have. You know, you have Google, Teams, Zoom, whatever. There's so many different platforms that people are using nowadays to do business meetings. You can work. You can basically work from home. You can work remotely. You don't actually need to be in the office from 9 to 5 to be productive or unproductive. You know, everybody works different. So there's nothing wrong with working remotely, even if you're, let's say, on a vacation like me, for example. At the moment, enjoying my vacation, and still I'm, you know, connected to the world. I have my laptop, I have an internet connection, and you know, I'm in Eastern Europe right now. You're in the UK, and you know, we have this meeting, and I think that's what's happening or has happened in the past years, that a lot of businesses have, you know, transformed from doing regular business one-on-one to online meetings, and I think that connects the world even more, because now it doesn't matter so much what time zone you're in. It's just you fix a certain time that is comfortable for everybody, and you have people from all parts of the world, basically from the same company or different companies, talking with each other. You can send documents, you can share documents, you can sign documents. Everything is perfectly legal. I think the legal aspects of that, you know, of signing contracts, that kind of stuff, documentation, have been also changed during the past couple of years. So nowadays you can do so much more than that you weren't able to do a couple of years ago, thanks to the pandemic. And I think that's pretty much the only positive outcome of the pandemic, I would say. There's a lot of lessons learned, but we're not going to discuss those today. You know, as far as businesses go or young entrepreneurs, what kind of advice can I give them? Well, you know, just do it. Go into it. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but the important thing is just to, you know, keep on. Once you have, you know, a business profit loss, or, you know, something is not going the way you expect it to go, I think the most important thing is to never give up. That's important for every aspect in life. You know, whether it's education, whether it's a job, whether it's doing business with somebody, you just don't give up. You have to be persistent, and that's easier said than done. But you should never forget your goal. You know, the most important thing to have is a certain goal. If you have a goal, different goals, you can take the necessary steps towards those goals. Maybe becoming a pilot, you know, that's a long path to be flying either commercially or in the military. So
Yeah.
what you do is you know, dissect the plan, and you have certain stages, milestones that you want to achieve and reach, and you work focused towards each and every goal. And once you have reached a certain goal, you reward yourself. If that's a rating, I don't know, if you go out and have a fancy dinner, whatever, you know, you do get something good for yourself to celebrate your effort and success. And it just continue. Once you have reached your goals, you don't stop there, but you start looking naturally for other goals, you know, other things you want to achieve, maybe family, or buying a house, or whatever it is. Nothing works in life without having goals. If you have a goal, you work towards it, and that's it, you know. And there's also, that's what I also keep, you know, telling younger people. If you want to achieve a certain goal, the line is never correct. Of course, it would be the easiest way to go, you know, from here to there, but life teaches us a different message. You know, you have your goals, and sometimes you have to, you know, divert to the left, to the right, you know, up, down. Everything's fluid, everything's dynamic, so you have to adapt. Never get stuck, and once you fall down, just get up and continue. What it is.
That's it brings us to the point. Like, you nailed it. What should I say? Like, is there anything like what you maybe some, like, you know, I think this kind of advice, and this is really like totally correct. I have I make this experience, and I totally appreciate that. In my experience, and what I realized with these young professionals at the moment, they listen to these advices, but they take it differently, like maybe the 5 to 10 years ago, the last generation. What for you is missing right now in this generation, and what kind of values you would wish to would be more
That's a good
implemented
question.
again, let's say like this.
A good question. I mean, I see the kind of old school approach that I do and live, and the new school approach. With my kids in school. I mean, they learn stuff different today than we did. Years ago. Be it language grammar has changed. Some stuff in math has changed. How you calculate things. But one positive thing that they actually have nowadays is they get in touch with computers from an early age. So my daughter, for example, she's going to what is it called, the iPad. So they have an iPad, a tablet basically, and they do a lot of stuff on that. So my kid actually shows me stuff on my cell phone and my computer that I didn't know, that I wasn't aware about, basically. And she was like, well, you can a short movie and you can alter it and you can send it to, certain people. And wow, I'm like, I'm so surprised. I'm learning a lot every day just from, my kid, basically. So she teaches me a lot. And one thing is that you also have to be, that you also have to keep in mind is you learn your lifelong. That's something that has been said quite a lot in the past, lifelong learning, but it's actually true because you do learn something new every day. If you buy a new, I don't know, TV set, phone, some gadget, whatever. And I know a lot of people don't do that, but since I'm a pilot, I actually read the manual. And I'm surprised by all the functions. A lot of people nowadays don't need manuals anymore. I guess the youngsters and my kid as well. She's just opened the box, immediately knows how to operate something, a gadget that I don't even know how to hold, basically. And and they're like, okay, well, this is the on button. Then put this thing in there, and then you hook this up to your computer, and ready to go. So I think it's beneficial to learn from each other. And in a lot of businesses and companies, there's a rivalry between older, more senior folks and the younger generation. And I think that should not be competition at all. It's beneficial to work together as a team, and you have the let's say old school approach from somebody who's more senior towards that new, fresh, unorthodox, if you will, view of how the world works and how certain things work. So if you put all that brain power together, I think at the end of it, you get very positive results.
That would be the ideal world, yeah. I totally agree. And I totally agree as well what you see about
there's a lot of competition, but I think since you mentioned the new generation, and I forgot which letter we are in the alphabet now, but
I think Gen Z.
Some call it the lost generation or the last generation. I think that's those are not nice names. I think there's always been older people, younger people, and people always work together, no matter what age. And usually it used to be like that the younger folks were learning from the seniors, and nowadays it's more, I think, more of at an eye level. Everybody's actually learning from each other. The older people are learning all the new internet, computer-based digital world, basically, and the younger ones are learning the old strategies of what do I do when there's no electricity and stuff like that. Alternative way of thinking. And if you put that together, I think the next generation will benefit even more because they will have the old school stuff plus the new generation, way of thinking and doing things. And I'm thinking positive. I think the future will bring a lot of good things.
How do you implement this new generation aspect, what you just described, in your consultancy with the companies? Because I think as well that's they have the same issues, bringing the old school and the new school approach together, and especially in engineering, I guess there's a lot of changes, and more than maybe in a just service-based company. So how do you handle the situation as a consultant when you have this when you're in companies or in institutions?
Well, usually in most cases, I'm not the sole consultant. There's usually a team of consultants from either different companies or also independent consultants, and the age varies. So there's senior folks, there's younger people, and I think there you have your answer. It's a healthy mix of all the different aspects of how we think, how we approach the project or the different questions within. I think the company always kind of picks what makes sense. Usually, a lot of things make sense when you mix them together. So once again, you have the let's say old school approach view of my strongly aviation biased view of how I do things, how I do operations, mixed with somebody who hasn't been working in the aviation field at all, but has been working in another field, say technical, medical, whatever, and that they have another certain set of rules basically, and how they approach things, and that put together, I think, is a healthy mix to get things done, basically.
I agree. I agree. And like you talked, you are in a group basically of consultants. So tell me a little bit about more your client, your ideal client, what you are doing, and what is your day-to-day business basically when you're consulting them.
Well, I think there's no such thing as an ideal client. Every client is an ideal client because in the end, you know, it's work, and I'm getting paid for that, so that's very beneficial. So so far, I've been really lucky. I haven't had any bad customers in that way. Sometimes customers come from different fields that have. I mean, I don't only have customers in the aviation field. I also have customers from, let's say, the oil and gas industry, from the medical field, from IT business, and in the beginning, it's always challenging for me to kind of understand their core beliefs and values and missions and visions and all that kind of stuff, to basically understand what they're all about, what their problem is or problem setting, and where they want to go. And I then have to do a little bit of research to understand that, and learn to how to adapt my, let's say, skills to my knowledge, subject matter expertise in that case, to be beneficial to the customer, yeah, and to basically find out what they're looking for.
Okay, and then
That makes sense.
That makes the totally sense. I just want to get the next step as well. So how usually is the work with the client then after that, like after you figure that out and you're working with them? Like if somebody wants to, to see you here and wants to know more about what you're doing, what you can share. I know it's highly confidential in this field as well. So I understand that you cannot share everything, but it's would be interesting, like what you are doing exactly with this knowledge, because this is so special.
It is, yes. It is, and it's aerospace bias basically. So a lot of aerospace, maritime, and defense. That's what I've done. That's what I've learned, studied. I got a degree in engineering. So yeah, I'm basically using my subject matter expertise in problem settings, basically or mainly in the aerospace industry, because that's where my focus lies. But I don't want to exclude any other industry, because I've been working in other services and branches as well. It just really depends on the project and on the questions behind, basically what the customer wants or needs. But my ideal customer, if you will, comes from the aviation business, aerospace industry, and there it's usually technical questions, also from the point of view of an aviator, from the point of view of a technician, basically, and from the view of a service person. So I do have experience in as an operator, not so much as a service person, but since I have studied that kind of stuff and know a lot about engineering, I also know that approach, and I've been working with these people before, and very closely. So I know a lot about their skill sets and work, and questions and answers and all that kind of stuff. So when there's a specific problem, I usually sit down with the customer, and the most important thing for me is always to communicate openly what the customer actually wants, what the needs are, what the path is, basically, where that company or the customer wants to go and wants to achieve. And I then help, coach, consult, mentor, if you will, my clients towards that target or goal. Whether it's something technical that I have to do research on, or something to test. In the aerospace business, it has been going that far as even testing hardware, testing software, doing test flights, that kind of thing. Been working in the automotive industry, where I've had customers going into the ergonomic field of human physiology, kind of how things are being augmented in modern digital vehicles. A lot of that stuff comes from the aerospace industry, and like head-up displays, for example, that modern cars have. Been working on that kind of stuff before, and even entertainment things in a vehicle, for example, like how is the haptic, how is the feel of it, what is my impression, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And also ergonomics, like seat ergonomics. So that's been very specific, but that's something customers wanted to get like a second opinion from a customer point of view, but also from a technical point of view, and to kind of, is it foolproof, basically. And I've had a couple of occasions before where I've shown the customer, well, you need to redo this door, for example, because the handle just breaks, or whatever, stuff like that.
That's
a lot of stories.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, there's a lot of funny stories about that. Me checking out things and accidentally, breaking something, or inadvertently breaking it, and I was like, well, there you have it.
Yay!
So, if you're clumsy, day-to-day pilot like me, does not get the results the manufacturer is expecting, then they need to replan something and redo it. And that has been done. It's just little things, sometimes it's just the ergonomics of a switch, basically, or just the setting of the seat, whatever, that kind of stuff. So it goes more into the technical kind of field.
I have a picture now in mind, so that's great. Thank you for that. Because all the technical field is so wide, and there's a lot of things to improve, and to improve the processes, to consult. So this makes more sense now in this direction, and I guess it's really fun as well for you to test it and to to fly again, and to
sure is, yes.
I can.
It also shows you the limits of human physiology, because sometimes the engineers have something in mind, and they're like, okay, it's supposed to work like this, and by doing statistics or analysis, we have come up with an idea to do, to construct something a certain way, and then in the actual testing phase, people are testing that, and mostly, pilots, aviators, test pilots, people also with engineering degrees, and they're like, how did they come up with that? No. and that's the part, when I'm like, people should talk to each other. Sometimes the sales department have had something in mind. They want to place a new product on the market, and they talk to engineering, and the engineering has a different picture of it, and then things end up in a certain way, and that there's funny pictures of that on the internet, like how the customer wanted it, how the engineer planned it, how the business developer looked at that, and then how the end product looks. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I can imagine. How long does it take usually in average, like if you consult a client?
Well, that depends. Sometimes it's just like it's a second opinion consultant. Large companies want to have a lot of different opinions, so that those products or projects with product checks and stuff like that can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few months, and do have longer projects as well that I've been accompanying for a couple of years now. So it really depends. It really depends.
Yeah, this is like for consultancy, like, yeah, okay, then it's in the long run. Okay, that's I heard some things. I want to continue with this later. But what is basically for you, and with all the experience and what you see as well in the companies that you're working with and you're consulting, what is for you the key of success?
Well, the key to success. Wow, good question. I mean, in the end, it's always to have a certain goal. So if the company has a goal to succeed in a certain field, have a product that they want to come up with, then it's important that everybody speaks the same language. Communication is I would say, the key to success. Open communication in the sense of you should all play to the same tune of music, which means, like I said previously, you have the engineers with their highly technical way of thinking, and then you have the salesperson with the highly sales focused way of doing business. Then you have any other departments in between, and sometimes we use the same words, but they have different meanings. So what's important to have something standardized, like in aviation again, and that's where bring people back to the flying business. What we do is, we deal with a lot of different people in aviation, different jobs in the air and on the ground, and also worldwide. But something that's like the common denominator is a standardized language. That way, everybody pretty much knows what to expect. There's no surprises. Everything is being discussed openly and concise. You don't need hour-long meetings every day. You can get stuff done with a so-called briefing that we do before every flight, where we just focus on the day-specific or on the mission-specific items that we want to talk about. So we're not going to talk about the entire project. We're just going to talk about, let's say, this week, or we're going to talk about this day of production, whatever, and we're just going to focus on a single thing. Then we're going to look at it from every different angle. Every person in the team that has a different function is supposed to brief us all, so that we know about that other person's plan for the day, basically. So that everybody knows what everybody else is doing and what to expect. And once that is done, we just go out and do it. And after that, which is equally important, is we get back together and we debrief, which means we sit down, we look at it. If it went well, we have a rather short debrief, and we also learn from that and say, okay, this went well. We're going to do the same approach the other day, the next day. If something didn't go expected to the plan, we try to analyze how we ended up there, and how we got out of there, and how we can prevent this same situation from occurring again. And that's the lessons learned. So that's why it's important to brief before you do something, and then debrief in order to know how to do it the next time, not to end up doing the same mistakes over and over again, which are really costly in everything's business.
Yeah. I really, what is my biggest takeaway today is as well that you started with the thing that you are sharing the mistakes and the analyze of your mistake, that nobody else can do it. And I think this is, or in my opinion, and when I look around in businesses nowadays, especially in Germany, people are not talking about their mistakes, and
Right.
for sure they're not sharing that.
No.
not the analysis as well, that other people can't do it. Or not doing the same mistake all over again. And this is one of the biggest takeaway today, but it comes what I'm hearing out as well when you're talking is basically a really clear structure. Like you start with the goal, and the most efficient way to this goal is just a way. Like there is a clear communication, clear standards for communication, which is actually for companies a good idea, especially I think this is a point which is not really highly focused on right now. And this is why people, and as well with the generation, when we talk about the generations, where it comes to this miscommunication points as well, and sharing I love that you said as well, you don't need to meet all day long, and there's a short briefing in the beginning, and what most people missing out is the deep briefing afterwards. And this is I noticed as well for me, because this is definitely something I will implement as well. And I have one more question before I ask you as well, like what we maybe missed today, what you want to share. But how does it work, this standard communication thing? Like there's what, like for people, they obviously, like, are they words? And you described it as, like, you described this word, what does mean, that everybody understand the same meaning of the words. Like how does it work?
Basically like a legend, yes. I mean, in the beginning, if you have it always depends on the project and the teams you're working with. Let's say if you're working in the aviation business, it's kind of easy because everything is standardized. Just the way how you pronounce names on the phone, for example, you use the standard ICAO or NATO alphabet. So then I spell my name on the phone. It's November India Charlie Kilo, Nick, and it's not NICK, because you don't hear NICK on the phone. You might hear NIFJ, something like that, So just like you said, there's a certain standardization of language itself, also words, the wording, and that is specific to each branch. So if you're consulting or working with a group of doctors or in the medical field, for example, you have to use a lot of medical terms. And me, not being accustomed to the medical terms, I'm always like, okay, I understand scalpel and scissors and what is the other stuff, and then they kind of have to take one step back, or go one step back, and treat me maybe like a 6-year-old child, in order to explain in simple words what each and everything actually means. And everybody in the team should then take notes of that, and understand there's a certain vocabulary we call certain things certain names, and that's the standardization. And once everybody knows that, once that spreadsheet, whatever, has been shared with everybody, we just use that phraseology or terminology to make things easier and not to mistake it with other words to describe. That's like something you discuss in the early briefing, for example, in the early meetings. Once you come together, you want to set a certain standard so that everybody basically speaks and understands the same. Yeah, you don't want to have that that mix up of I mean this, but you understood this. That's the worst. That assumptions are bad. One of the people I worked with previously, a European astronaut, Luca Parmitano, he once told us in one of his briefings that don't make any assumptions. And do you know what assumption stands for? Assume stands for making an ass of you and me. So that's something
I noticed.
And I like that approach. Never make any assumptions. Never take anything for granted. If you're not sure, understand, ask questions. Make sure you understand what the other person is telling you. Read that back, and that's why we also, coming back to aviation, when the tower tells you something and you're in the airplane, you read back the information. When he tells you you're clear to land runway 27 right, you don't say Roger, copy. You just say clear to land runway 27 right. That way he understands that you understand the message, the original message. And that's very important, that you read back those important phrases, basically. And if you're in a briefing, no matter what business it is, no matter what project it is, it's always important to be on this same sheet of music, basically, to play to the same tune. Somebody is in the next chapter, on the next day, in the next month, whatever, in the next production line, and you're somewhere else, and then you start talking, discussing things, it creates confusion. Yeah, so you have to make sure that everybody is on the same level, language wise, phraseology wise, and that way you can pretty much cut out any confusion. Yeah.
Thank you for the example. It makes it more clear, and give some ideas maybe as well, not only for me, but as well for the audience, to to implement this in their business, because this is something what a lot of business are not doing, and it helps as well to communicate with clients and have no misunderstandings at the end. Nick, since we are almost at the end, I wanted to ask as well, like, is there anything we missed today what you want to highlight before we end this this recording?
That's a good question. I don't know. We've been talking about communication a lot and about things that have to, that I come up during my everyday business. Maybe one of the points that you mentioned that is lacking a bit, especially in the say German-speaking world, which is also my impression, is that non-punitive approach to mistakes. So, doing mistakes is a human thing. It's human nature to make mistakes, and like I said previously, we learn from our mistakes. When we don't address those mistakes we do every day, be it small ones or big ones, we end up in that say dark cave that nobody wants to be in, because somebody else, maybe even you, will make the same mistake again, and that will be costly for the company, sometimes even for lives, in aviation, for example.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so important to not blame somebody or punish somebody from, when a mistake has been done, but the approach should be to, because that person already feels bad, basically, not to dwell on that, but on the other hand, to, build up the person again and say, hey, mistakes are human. Everybody makes a mistake. I make a mistake. You make a mistake. No big deal. I mean, even if it's costly, something broke, and whatever, as long as nobody died, basically, you still have the option to learn from that. And even if somebody died, like in aviation, for example, others will benefit from that. As hard as that might sound, but there it's very important that the necessary steps are being taken, not end up in that same mistake again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I when you talked about this before, I said, well, obviously mistakes in this area are can lead to death, obviously, and this should not happen again if we can avoid that. Yeah, obviously. Thank you so much, Nick. It was my pleasure to talk to you today. And we make sure that people can get in contact with you, and we write the contact details below this video and below the information, so that you can contact you. And maybe one really last question: who you would be really amazed if somebody is contacting you for your consultancy, and like where you can help and what you want to work on in future?
Basically, I'm happy for anybody who contacts me. That I'm happy for making a change, making an impact, for helping either individuals or companies to reach their goals. Maybe for giving somebody a second opinion or a different perspective. Sometimes you need to look at things from a different angle. That also helps. When you're stuck somewhere, just look at it from a different angle. And it looks different, and you get new ideas and new ways to approach a problem. So I'm happy for anybody to contact.
Thank you so much.
Give me a call, drop me a line.
Thank you so much for your time.
Anytime. Thank you.
Do you want to get paid? Introducing Legacy Builders Global, where everybody gets paid. We don't create investors. We create legacy builders. Legacy Builders Global. Visit us at www.legacybuildersglobal.com.